Welcome to episode 22 of Convergence with Karen Holton here on People for People Radio. Find out how the personal is political as we explore the politics here on Earth, the exopolitics of our galaxy, and how these intersect with spiritual transformation through my unique perspective. If this is your first time joining us, I encourage you to check out the archives here on People for People Radio or my YouTube and Odyssey channels to find all of the episodes of Convergence, and you will be glad that you did. In episode 18, I was so happy to introduce you to my friend Ryder Lee. Ryder is a truth seeker, knowledge guardian, spiritual educator. He uses his real-world experiences to educate and elevate others to awaken, question their reality, expand their consciousness, and to raise their vibration. Today in episode 22, we continue with our discussion about the ascension process. Check out Ryder's YouTube channel called Raised by Giants, where Ryder interviews others from all backgrounds about their spiritual awakening. This brings people from many different perspectives who share what's going on in the world from an individual and collective perspective. His guests share insights, knowledge, wisdom, and awareness from their personal experiences. Today, we will continue to take a deep dive into the subject of ascension. Hi, Ryder. Welcome back to the show.
Hello, Karen. Thank you so much for having me again. I'm looking forward to having to extend our conversation that we had last time.
Oh, yeah, me too. Thank you so much. But before we get on with it, I just got to ask you, how did you enjoy the conference in Nevada?
Well, it was amazing. I'm still kind of recuperating, because it was an amazing experience. And just being able to have the conversations with people that you can't have in an everyday basis, it's incredible. When everything kind of goes there, you can talk about whatever, and you're not looked at like you're some crazy lunatic, raving person, so it was an amazing experience. I couldn't recommend that conference. I really would recommend it to anybody, that's really going out there and searching and trying to figure things out, because it's an amazing community. People are very accepting there, and it was amazing. I was there for 4 days, and it was just fantastic. The sky watches using Gen 3 military grade night vision goggles. It's amazing what you can see in the sky with night vision goggles, right? Like, because we only see a very limited amount of the the light spectrum, but whenever you have those night vision goggles on, like, there's so much more going on up there than what we can really see, especially with the stars, because that's what our guide was talking about, Michael from Sedona. He was the one that was leading it, and he was like, yeah, you see the Milky Way right there with the night vision goggles off. And then he was like, all right, put them back on. And he was like, yeah, there's like, you can see maybe, 15 to 20 stars. And then you put the night vision goggles on, and it's like, boom, it blows everything up. And there's like over 200 stars.
Wow.
Yeah.
What was the actual name of the conference? Sorry, I just slipped my mind.
Laughlin UFO MegaCon.
Okay, Laughlin UFO MegaCon. So if people, I guess I'll be posting some replays of some of the talks and stuff eventually on social media, right?
Yeah, if you can go to Chris Matthews' Forbidden Knowledge news channel, and I helped him out with some of those interviews. I would actually, be on a few of them with him. If you'd like to go and check those out, and yeah, they'll be on social media as well. But yeah, it was a fantastic time, and just getting together with those kinds of people, just really shifts and changes your vibration, because that's really what what's going on, and then having to integrate back into not being in that environment,
Mm-hmm.
is a little jarring, and I'm still kind of adjusting right now. Which
Mm-hmm.
yeah, it was an amazing time. I'd really recommend people. Just amazing information, amazing people, great presenters, great conversations. It was just an all around an amazing experience.
Oh, I bet it was. I know exactly the feeling when I come back. And I haven't been away for quite a while, but when I come back from having my experiences in other realities with ETs and come back to this world, wow, it's so dense compared and so limiting, that I just crave to be back. So I'm hoping next year we'll be able to travel. Me being in Canada, we haven't been able to travel, so I have not been able to go to anything like that, but maybe next year. Now, Ryder, before we get started, can you also tell people where they can find you?
Yes, you can subscribe to my YouTube channel at Raised by Giants. It's where I bring other people on to interview them and talk about their experiences and also my experiences. I do one video a week. Normally release it on Tuesdays at 6 p.m. You can also follow me on Instagram at Raised by Giants Pod, and then you can add me on Facebook where I post my videos and other things at Ryder Lee.
Wonderful. Thank you. So, how about if we recap a little bit of some of the things we talked about last time, and then we'll move on from there? So let's start, since the subject today is ascension or the ascension process. Can you tell the listeners, for those who may have missed the last show we did together, what does ascension mean to you? In your opinion, what does the process look like?
Well, that is a hefty question, Karen, because
Is that
a
Well,
lot
I
of
know
people, a
it's
lot of,
subjective, so please
yeah.
don't feel put on the spot for a definitive answer. It's just how you see it. That's the important thing.
Yeah, I think that it means a lot of different things to a lot of different people, and I think that it's really been misinterpreted as something physical.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and this was a part of my download process that I had around 3.5 months ago, and I was basically shown that people that are talking about a physical ascension, it's not necessarily that they're wrong. It's just that the information has just been misinterpreted, right? It's kind of like the Bible, right? There's a lot of good information and a lot of good things in the Bible. It's just it's been misinterpreted, manipulated, and turned into something that it's not,
Mm-hmm.
right? And that's what I feel is going on with ascension as well. And from what I've been shown, it's an after death ascension because we've been placed in a quarantine reincarnation trap that's been here on the planet for a really long time, maybe thousands and thousands of years, and it's kept us in a perpetual loop. Like whenever we die, we're automatically recycled right back to Earth without our memories, without knowing who we are, what we are, where we're from. It's essentially like a prison kind of system,
Mm-hmm.
right? And from what I've been shown is there's a period of time whenever we're switching from a new age, we're going from an old age into a new age. There's a section of time where we can escape, right? We can get out because the reincarnation trap has been lifted for a certain period of time, and I don't know exactly how long that period of time is. I'm guessing maybe 100 years, maybe 150 years. I'm not exactly sure,
Mm-hmm.
but from what I've been shown is the dark side, the archons, whatever you want to call them, have known about this reincarnation trap being lifted, and the only way that they could keep us here is by self-imposing it, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that's what they did during 2020 was because 2020 was basically all about, quarantining and self-isolation, right?
Mm-hmm.
Well, that's what they kind of had to do in order to keep us here. They have to make us think that it's our idea,
Mm-hmm.
right? So that's really what I think is going on with the ascension process, and that it's not a physical ascension, it's an after death ascension, and we have the opportunity to get out, and we have the opportunity to escape. And I don't know how many people are going to be able to escape, because again, this window is very small,
Mm-hmm.
and that it also involves revoking your consent if you've been been quarantined, if they've self-imposed a quarantine upon you, whether it was your choice or not. You're going to need to revoke that consent, and that's a very easy process. You just basically say out loud that I do not consent, basically.
Mm-hmm.
That's the way that it works for everything in our reality, is that you just say that out loud, and you're basically revoking your consent, because what they have to do is, if they can get us to consent, then that places the karma on us, right? It's off of them and it's on to us. So if we revoke our consent,
Mm-hmm.
then they can still do the negative things to us, of course, but they're going to get the karmic repercussions, and they're going to get the karmic backlash. And there's also a misconception about karma too, because a lot of people think that karma is like an instant thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it's not always an instant thing. Excuse me. It's not always instant. It can happen, a week down the road. It can happen a month down the road. It can happen a year down the road. And then it can also happen in your next lifetime.
Mm-hmm.
I think a lot of people, whenever they think of the concept of karma, they think of like instant karma, right? And instant karma does happen, but a lot of times I think that it's a long game
Mm-hmm.
of karma,
Mm-hmm.
and it can be imposed on us for decades and lifetimes to come.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So, what about people who are enmeshed within the construct or the matrix or the mainstream, depending on what you want to call it? What would they need to do in order to participate in ascension at their death or after their death? Now, you did mention revoking consent. That implies a certain amount of waking up. Would you agree with that?
Yes, the first thing and the most important thing is bringing the awareness to it, because things are happening all around us all the time. But it's just, do we have the eyes to see, and do we have the ears to hear,
Mm-hmm.
right? And that's the most important part of all this, because our angels and our guides are trying to communicate with us in all kinds of different ways. I mean, our body is telling us what's healthy for us and what's not. It's just, are you listening to it? You
Mm-hmm.
know, can you hear it? Can you see the signs?
Mm-hmm.
You know, because there's things that's going on around us 24/7 that's trying to guide us.
Mm-hmm.
It just might not be the way that you want it to be,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
because we tend to have like a preconceived notion that things need to be a certain way in order for them to happen,
Yes.
and that's not the way that reality really works. I mean, we can plan for things, and we can want things to happen, but then we grow an attachment to that.
Mm-hmm.
An attachment is screws up a lot of things. So it's really just paying attention your surroundings and bringing awareness to every single thing that's happening.
Mm-hmm.
Scan the room whenever you walk into a room. You know what I mean? You walk into a building, scan the building, figure out what's going on in there, who's in there.
Mm-hmm.
You walk into a restaurant, figure out your exits. Just pay attention to everything that's going on, because society wants us in a very robotic state.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they want us shut off from these things.
Mm-hmm.
They just want us walking around like a zombie. It hasn't been any more apparent than in 2020 that
Mm-hmm.
that they want us in a zombie state. Because we're easily controlled and easily manipulated in that state, and we'll just go along with whatever everybody else is doing, right?
Mm-hmm.
So we have to kind of break the mold and bring our awareness and bring our attention to the subtle things, right? Because
Mm-hmm.
a lot of times your angels and your guides and your ET friends aren't really going to be communicating with you in a big extravagant way, and sometimes they will, right?
Mm-hmm.
But I think that's a very rare instance, right? A lot of times they will be communicating in very subtle ways, through numbers, through images, through symbols, right? Like every time I
Synchronicities, even.
yes, like every time I post a new video on my YouTube channel every week, I take the last three numbers of the ending of the video that it ends on, and then I type that into Google, and then I put whatever number it is, and then I put angel number
Mm-hmm.
after it. And then I look up what that number actually means,
Mm-hmm.
and that kind of gives me advice and gives me feedback on where I'm headed and what I need to know for the next week.
Yep.
So it's just subtle things like that, and just paying attention to your surroundings. Like the other day, like last week, I was it was maybe a few weeks ago, I was getting ready to be on my way to work, and I have to pass three red lights before I go to work and before I get on the highway. And every one of those lights that I passed, it turned yellow right as I was going underneath it.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And I'm like, huh, that's strange that every one of these that I went under turned yellow. Right. So I took that to mean that I needed to drive to work with caution.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
It's just simple things like that, Karen, that's going to make a huge difference. But as far as ascension, not only bringing your awareness to the fact, revoking your consent, I think it really comes down to just being your own individual and being real and being
Yeah.
authentic and being honest,
Mm-hmm.
right? Because we don't really go ahead.
No, no, I was going to say that's not as easy as it sounds. It sounds very straightforward, but in the society that we're all stewed in, we can't do those things without a certain amount of backlash because the construct is trying to keep basically expel people who are like us and bring back into the fold those who want to stray. Um, anyway, I'll let you just finish up. Sorry.
No, it's okay. Jump in at any time. I like having these discussions and these backs and forth. I don't. I'm not a good monologuer, but
Oh, you're doing fine. You're doing just fine, actually. I just don't want to, interrupt you saying anything important you're trying to get out.
it's just we live in a reality. It's exactly like what you just said. It seems like the construct in society rewards people for not being honest.
Yeah.
It rewards people for being fake,
Mm-hmm.
and being a kiss ass.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, just look
You
at the
know?
politicians. I've never seen a more fake population in my whole life.
Yeah, this is where we as awaken individuals and people that are here to help really have to kind of pave the way, Karen,
Mm-hmm.
because yes, it's difficult to do, but it's our duty, and it's what we are here to really do, is to bring that light into the fold and be as honest and be as real and authentic as possible,
Mm-hmm.
because there's nothing more virtuous in this world than being a real individual in a society of fakeness.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Because you will stand out and you eventually will find your crew. You will find your soul tribe. You
Mm-hmm.
will find the people that are meant to be in your life. You just have to be willing to stick it out, right? Because there's going to be rough times, there's going to be hard times, no matter what. It's just you have to have the persistence and the willingness to push through all of that nonsense and get to the other side,
Mm-hmm.
and do not conform.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Right?
I want to touch on something you mentioned earlier where you were saying that in order for us to revoke our consent, become aware that we can even do that, become aware of all the things that are going wrong, we have to choose. I can't remember the exact words you used, but something about we have to awaken to our authentic selves and to observe more than what the mainstream says is possible. And I want to reflect that back on my own experience within religion. As long as, and I kept going from religion to religion to religion, um, not, not overnight, it took me years sometimes to be done with one, but I found that they gave me a pre-packaged, pre-digested way of living. And as long as I followed that course and didn't stray, then I was told that I was acceptable to God. Now, each religion says the same thing. And so I'm just wondering what your thoughts are about that. I'm not telling people to ditch their religion. If it works for you, great. But for me, what it did is it kept me fixated on a path that was not liberating and was not conducive to me awakening to my own ascension process. And I'm wondering what your thoughts are about that.
Yes, religion is there to get you into a very narrow view of reality, to get you working within a system that is predetermined for you. Right?
Mm-hmm.
It's like, hey, you can exist here and you can do these things, but you have to work within it.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Like you can't look outside of it. This is a big reason why a lot of religions don't want you reading anything outside of the Bible,
Right.
right? Because they don't want you to be asking questions. They don't want you to be varying off of the predetermined path that they've set out for you.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, no matter what.
Mm-hmm.
And religion is a big programming tool for a lot of what I see that's happening right now, right? It's been set up to constantly be looking to an authority figure, because who is the authority figure in the church? It's the priest, the pastor, the bishop, you know. So
Mm-hmm.
not only it's programming us on a bunch of different levels,
Mm-hmm.
not only that, but constantly looking outside of yourself for someone to come and save you, blaming, and then also blaming other people whenever bad things are happening to
Yeah.
you. It's a very dangerous road to go down with religion, and it's been so instilled and installed into the collective consciousness, and it doesn't matter really if you've taken on those beliefs or not. It's still kind of manifested in your reality in one form or another, whether you're a Christian, you're a Buddhist, you believe in Krishna, or whatever it is you might not even believe in any of those things, right? But it's still been programmed inadvertently into a lot of people's subconscious, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's where, having to flip that and go in there and take care of that programming, because that's the hardest and biggest one to break, Karen, is the religious programming, because it seems like a lot of people kind of want to revert back to that,
Mm-hmm.
no matter what. And whenever something is going on, they just they tend to go back to the religious doctrine, and because it's easily explained in that context, right?
Yeah, and we don't have to take responsibility because we just follow the recipe or the prescribed way of living or the prescribed way of doing.
Yes, yes, it's so, I don't really know how to explain it, but it's detrimental to the growth, especially the spiritual growth, because again, you have to play within the rules.
Mm-hmm. You
Yeah.
sure do. And a couple of religions that I had been a part of were shunning religions. So if you don't tote the line exactly as prescribed, you are like a dead person. You lose all your community, you lose all your friends, you lose everybody within the organization turns their back and treat you like you are the most despicable thing on earth. Not even, they won't eat with you, they won't talk with you. The last fundamentalist religion that I was involved with, I was a Jehovah Witness for over 17 years. And when I left, I lost everything because when I was in the organization, I was only allowed to make friends with people in the organization. So these are little ways that they trap, I believe, trap our souls into um, what you were talking about earlier, coming back and doing it again and again and again, and serving really the religion or the church over the freedom and the wonderful spiritual life that is our birthright.
Yes, and once people really realize, Karen, that God isn't a external thing, right? It's
Mm-hmm.
not an external being. God is us, and we are God,
Mm-hmm.
right? I think that will break down a lot of people's preconceived notions of what, because religion wants to make it about a man in the sky, a bearded person up in the
Yeah.
clouds that dictates everything and knows everything, right?
Yeah.
But
Mm-hmm.
that's the religious aspect of it that's taken hold and manipulated the concepts, and then the preachers going out and making it to, about this external thing, when it's all within us. The kingdom of heaven is within.
Mm-hmm.
God is within.
Another way of looking at it, I often use the expression that we are divinity diversified. So, some people's concept of God is, like you said, the old man on the throne with the beard, and he's very, do what I say, or I'm going to make your life terrible. Um, and then when they look at the concept of being God, they're like totally freaked out by that. Not to mention all the guilt and shame that gets piled on us so that we don't think we're worthy of being divinity. But I think we are, you, me, all of us. Where we're different is in our genetics. Where what's different is not just our genetics, but our socialization. But if you take those things away, we are that spark, that divinity diversified so that many, many, many different um, perspectives can happen. And also I think it's for soul development. What would you say about that, Ryder?
Yeah, it's very interesting. I was really thinking just the other day while I was in the shower, because that's normally where I do a lot of my thinking, is in the shower, which I think, it's a great place to do your meditation and get really thinking, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And I was thinking in the shower, I'm like, what if we are all living inside of God,
Mm-hmm.
right? What if all of the planets and everything is just neurons inside of the brain of God?
Mm-hmm.
You know, and I was kind of blowing my own mind with that thought. I'm like, holy crap, because we hear people talk about this concept all the time that we are source, you know, that
Mm-hmm.
we're source here to experience ourselves, right?
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, well, that would make sense. You know, if we're living inside of source, then we are source,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
you
You know,
know?
it's interesting. What popped into my mind when you were saying that is, have you seen an image of the universe when they include the dark matter, the dark energy? It's exactly identical to the neuron placement within our brains. It's like a copy. It's like we have a duplicate of the universe inside our own physical brains. It's pretty amazing.
Yeah, and I was like, no, I haven't. I'll have to definitely check that out. It was kind of just like a thought that kind of came into my head that is very plausible and probable,
Mm-hmm.
because again, people say that we live in a simulation of sorts, and it would be like a simulation if we were living in the brain of God,
Mm-hmm.
right, or the brain of source, because then that would mean that we are just kind of like a thought,
Mm-hmm.
and we would be able to manipulate and kind of do everything that we need to do because we're just a thought, which is kind of blew my mind. But I think if people can really grasp that, that of what I just said, you can go in so many different directions with that, and kind of stew on that and think about that for a minute. What
Mm-hmm.
if what if we're just all in the brain of source?
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, that would make sense of how some of these beings and these UFOs and a lot of these things pop in and out of our reality so easily,
Mm-hmm.
like interdimensional, like, maybe
Mm-hmm.
they figured out that we are in a simulation of sorts, and that we're just in the brain of source.
Mm-hmm.
They figured out everything, and they're able to disappear and reappear wherever they want. Maybe being like the kind of like the controllers, of our reality, in a sense, that's kind of really figured the whole thing out, and they're kind of like the right hand of source. Who
Mm-hmm.
knows? I mean, the possibilities are really endless, but that was just kind of a little thought that I had.
Well, it's a good one. It's a really good one. Um, I want to also touch back a little bit about what you were saying about karma and ascension, and a term that I've used. I don't know if you're familiar with it. Is ascension sickness. Now, what happened for me as I started to wake up, because I had been very steeped in Christian fundamentalist religion. And after I had stopped being a Jehovah Witness, boy, it took me a few years to thaw out because the indoctrination is very intense and ongoing, day in and day out, day in and day out. So I had to sort of find myself again. But one thing that really helped was sickness and suffering. And I know that sounds weird, but let me just explain what I mean by that. Is my sickness and my discontent was a direct result of me living an unnatural life, a life within a prescribed religion, within, a mainstream construct. And it was my sickness that woke me up to food, about what is real food. None of the religions I was ever involved with talked about real food. And, I know some of them do, but quite a few of them don't. And so that was an example of my own karma, because I had made myself sick because of my ignorance and in not taking proper care of myself. So as I recognized my sickness and made steps to correct my sickness, I had more awakening and awakening and awakening, to the point where I could never go back, because I realized the mainstream is all about making money off of us, using our energies. It's just a really wicked system. And that's how I was able to get to the point where I was able to say, I do not consent. I've actually done affirmations for like 21 days in a row, where I said that I am sovereign and I do not consent. But anyway, I don't want to take it too far down the rabbit hole, but I just want to know what you feel about that relationship between sickness and suffering, our karma, and the ascension process, waking up to understanding our ascension process. What do you think about that?
Yeah, unfortunately, Karen, we live in a dualistic polarity reality,
Mm-hmm.
where everything kind of revolves around balance.
Mm-hmm.
And we can either grow out of the disharmony and the negative things, or we can let them overtake us and overwhelm us.
Mm-hmm.
Because that's what really happened to me in the very beginning of all this. Whenever I had my awakening, it the information just kind of imploded upon itself,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
Because I couldn't handle it. It was too much for me. And then after a while, I kind of tried to integrate back into this crazy world, and kind of shut it all off, and just kind of go along with everything that's happening. And that didn't work either, because it's kind of like what you said. Once those gates have been opened,
Mm-hmm.
it's there really is no going back. So you really have to find the strength and find that within you to persevere through it, and use the negative and as an opportunity to grow,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
right? Because a lot of people say they use the saying, well, everything happens for a reason, but they don't really expand on that. They kind of just use everything happens for a reason as an excuse, you know.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But really, what everything happens for a reason is really saying is that it happens for a reason because it gives you the opportunity and the ability to grow from it,
Yes.
and to change
Mm-hmm.
with it.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what I really try and explain to people, and bring these kinds of concepts. Because really, I mean, is anything really negative in our reality? Is anything really positive? Is there a negative? Is there a positive? Is there a good? Is there a bad? I mean, there is, from depending on your perspective,
Mm-hmm.
right? And that's why I think that our reality, in this 3D physical reality that we are in, really is ran off of perspective, right? Because I can be viewing something from a different angle than you, Karen, and then we get completely two different things from it.
Mm-hmm.
Now, does that mean that I'm right and you're wrong? No, it doesn't. It just means that we're looking at it from two different perspectives, right?
Well, we're also looking at it as if, for me, if we look at any subject, we could picture it as a globe or a sphere. North Pole and South Pole would be what you were talking about, right or wrong. That's only two polar opposites. What about everything in between? What
Yeah.
about doing the wrong thing for the right reason? What about doing the right thing for the wrong reason? It's very, very complex, but at least when I use that kind of a conception tool, which you were not going to learn about in the mainstream, we can see that your perspective is absolutely valid, even if it's a mile away from my perspective. that there's room for all of our perspectives, which sort of start to flesh out the whole of an issue or of anything. But you see, that's not taught in the mainstream. Like what you were saying, it's dichotomous. It's this or that. And it's so limiting. It is so terribly limiting that unfortunately, now that I have my new perspective, it makes it tougher to communicate with black and white folks. I don't mean people of different skin tones. I'm talking about black and white thinkers, right?
Yeah.
So we need to move ourselves into a position where I agree with you, where we realize that we have different perspectives and they're all valid because we're all speaking from what we know from this particular point or that particular point. And it really adds to the harmony and to being able to respect people. Like you just went to that wonderful conference. I bet there was many different points of view or perspectives, and yet there was a harmony there that you definitely noticed, right?
Yes, 100%. And that's the thing too, is being personally next to somebody instead of just being, on the internet.
Yeah, I
is
know.
a, is a completely different scenario, and
Yeah.
because there's a certain energy that comes with being in person with
Hmm.
people, that there's a more loving connection, because you can actually, touch them and you can feel their energy vibrating off of them, you know
Oh yeah, you get their energetic signature, you get their pheromones, you get all the non-word components of communication. Your heart torus field is interconnected with all those other people. It's so important for our development, and yet here I am in Canada, where we're still at the point where we're not allowed to touch each other, be around each other, even show our faces to each other. So it's been extremely unhealthy, for lack of a better term, and I can't wait till I can actually leave the country and do different things again, and take part in things like the Laughlin UFO conference. I'd love to go. Oh my gosh, I'd be so excited. I'd be like a kid in a candy store.
Yeah, it was amazing, and you're right. There were a bunch of different perspectives there, but everyone got along, right? There was
Mhm.
people that were there for the physical, UFO craft, the nuts and bolts kind of UFO craft, and then there was
Yeah.
people there that was thinking that they're light, energy orbs. There's people there that thought that they're, interdimensional beings, and then a lot of people think that, that it's a consciousness involved, in a
Mhm.
form of spirituality. And then there's all kinds of different, conspiracy people there, because it's all kind of lumped into one category, but we're all the same.
Yeah.
We're all family,
Yeah.
and we're all connected, and we're all there for the exact same reason, which is to learn and to grow. And that's a big thing that I think people really need to get into their heads, and stop trying to get everybody on the same page, because that's not
Oh,
the way that reality works. You can't blanket
yeah.
everyone with the same values and the same beliefs and the same everything. But that's what the construct wants you to do. That's what the dark side wants. It's
Yeah.
what they want, is they want everyone blanketed with the same values, the same beliefs, the same thoughts, the same ideas. They want us in a Borg hive mind type of reality.
Mhm.
And the way that they do that is they get a certain amount of people on board with it, right?
Mhm.
And then those people go out and they enforce it upon the people that necessarily don't believe it,
Oh,
right?
absolutely. I mean, it's to the point now where you can't, if you're not part of the mainstream think, it's hard to even have the courage to open my mouth when I'm out, because the amount of anger and backlash from people, and that's how the construct keeps its power. You know, everybody wants to fit in. They all want to comply. And then anyone who is strange or different or weird or a free thinker, it pushes them out through all kinds of things, social stigma, even violence at times. You become the enemy. You become scapegoated, targeted. Oh my goodness. But I gotta say, once we get outside of the box, it's like a calm, an incredible calm just overcomes. And we can talk to all these diverse thinkers, and there's no conflict because there's a level of respect because we know that well, we also know what we don't know. And what we don't know is all the things that have been hidden from us as we've gone through our life journey here on this planet. So that's why I think people who travel are more broad-minded because they're subjected to different cultures and see that different people have different ways of doing things and they work just fine. We don't have to all be the same. In fact, one of the most terrifying aspects of what's going down on the planet, from my perspective, is that sameness, that boring, lacking color, black and white template they want us to adhere to. I can't. I can't. I'm at the point where I can't. Even if I wanted to, I can't go back. So what do you say about that, Ryder?
Yeah, that's it. That's exactly what they want is they want everybody to adhere to a certain set of thoughts, beliefs, and think that our reality is a black and white thing. This is right, this is wrong. There is no in between, there is no gray area. When the gray area and the in between is the biggest amount of space.
Exactly. Exactly. And then add the color spectrum to that. Wow. You know, the options are pretty exciting, really. So I guess the whole thing is once we emerge out of the construct, finding our community. And I got to tell you, that didn't happen for me overnight. I spent quite a few years being very isolated, and yet that is actually what I needed at the time for me to do my own repair and growth and my own evolution. But then when I was ready, I started to find other people like yourself, and I have actually quite a wonderful community. It's all online, but I don't think it's any less important, you know.
Yeah, and I think that's where a lot of people struggle. Is being in that aloneness, that loneliness point. And it's difficult for them to get through that. But I'm telling you that if anybody out there is struggling with that aspect of it, just give yourself enough time, and getting through that period of time is going to help you grow. And whenever you spread your wings and you become that amazing, beautiful light being, it's going to be 10 times or 100 times more worth it in the end.
Oh,
And
absolutely. I'm just wondering if I could share with you a very short vision that I had a number of years ago. I don't know why I get visions, but I do, and I love them because they really explain so much without having to use a bunch of words. But
yeah,
in this vision, I was in a big city with very tall buildings, and everybody was standing on the roof of these buildings looking down to the traffic and the small specks of people way down below. And they were so terrified they couldn't move. And if they had just raised their gaze to see upwards instead of downwards, they would have seen that there were people flying. And so these people were actually flying, but everybody else was so terrified from looking down, afraid of the fall, afraid of what could happen to them, that they didn't see the fact that there were some of us who could fly, and that we all indeed have the potential for flight. Now this is a metaphor, and you could take it different ways, but I found it enormously comforting to step off from that ledge and test my own wings in a spiritual way and in a social way and actually in every way. So I just wanted to throw that in there.
Yeah, that's a beautiful concept, and it's kind of like what I was talking about earlier in the conversation is the awareness. You know,
Mm-hmm.
because if you're just walking through life with your blinders on, then you're not going to realize everything that's going on around you. You're not going to realize that you have wings. You're not going to realize that you can fly.
Mm-hmm.
You're not going to realize that you're a divine, sovereign, multi-dimensional light being,
Exactly.
that we all are. We all have these innate abilities. We all have intuition. We all are able. We're all psychics. We all can receive visions. We all can have dreams. It's all, but it's all been hidden, right? Because
Mm-hmm.
they want us locked in to an acceptable version of reality. You
Yeah,
know,
acceptable to who? It's not so acceptable to us who are trapped and
yeah.
you're yearning to be free. Ryder, we're almost out of time. I can't believe it. Would you like to come back in a few weeks and we could talk more about it? I wanted to actually get into addictions and ascension and awareness, but we don't have time today.
Yes, I
But
would love to.
and I really encourage everybody to check out Ryder's YouTube channel, Raised by Giants, and you will just get a huge diversity of people who are talking about essentially the same thing, but the way they approach it, the way they see it, the way they found it is all very, very different. I just find your show very inspiring, just really juicy. There's just every show you can just really sink your teeth into it and really get something from it. So I really want to encourage people to check out your YouTube channel. Are you going to have oh, what do you call it? Launch it this evening at 6? Will you have an episode?
Yes, I have an episode with Diesel Automatic. He's a freedom fighting lyricist. He's been writing conscious rap music for the past 10 years to try and awaken and enlighten souls on the planet through his music and through his raps and through his beats. And we had a fantastic conversation, and that will be premiering at 6 p.m. PST. That would be 7
Pacific.
p.m. Yeah, 7
Pacific.
p.m. your time. Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay, wonderful, Ryder. Well, thank you so much for joining me on Convergence. It's always a pleasure to be able to have that freedom, to be able to talk to you without any fear of reprisal or judgment. It's just so beautiful to have a conversation with you. I thank you so, so much for joining me today.
Thank you so much, Karen. And please, people, go subscribe to Karen's YouTube channel too. She has fantastic information over there. She releases a lot of content. She puts a lot of work into her show. So please go over there and support. Help her get her view counts up and hit the thumbs up button and comment. That's really the biggest thing that we can really do to try and help people in this community to share their work and comment and like and subscribe.
Thank you. Thank you, Ryder, so much. So, for the folks out there, let me know in the comment section if you have any questions about our discussion today, and I'll do my best to answer them. Join me and bring your friends as we go live at 1 p.m. Mountain Time every Tuesday here on People for People Radio. You can find People for People Radio at www.peopleforpeople.ning.com, and feel free to hit that donation button to help support this radio station. A special thank you to Gaz and Vanessa for hosting me and moderating for me on People for People Radio, and much love and light to you, the listeners. Thank you for sharing this time with me. If you would like to enjoy more of my content, Check out my website at www.karenholtonhealthcoach.com, where you will find an abundance of free resources to assist with energetic ascension into physical, mental, and spiritual paradise. You will find there the complete, free, online, no strings attached, comprehensive lifestyle program called the 9 Steps to Quantum Health Transformation. You also find all the episodes of the Quantum Guide Show, the Forbidden Transformation Show, and of course, much content about my real-life paranormal and extraterrestrial experiences. If you would like to support my work, check out my online shop where you will find Zendome's Organite, my unique brand of orgone generators. They're ethically sourced, they're handmade, and they're double charged for maximum effect. I also offer a few comfort crystals, some lifestyle services, and some PDF downloads, which are printable, shareable copies of my lessons. So thank you again for joining me here on People for People Radio, www.peopleforpeople.ning.com.